Welcome to the Bob Priest Show of Life podcast. I'm your host, Bob Priest. Thanks for tuning in today's show. This podcast is dedicated to individuals and professionals who desire to learn more about the subject of health and wellness, as well as alternative technologies to better health and vitality. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Bob Priest Show of Life podcast. Today, my guest is Dr. Delaine Fowler, PT, DPT, CEO of ATP. And I'm looking forward to having a conversation with this person. She is a recognized expert in the work health connection. She's a physical therapist specializing in workplace injuries. After years of treating people in her office, she could not help but think there was a better way. And so she went searching for that. She decided to start collaborating with companies, and we'll talk more about companies that she's working with and why that was the direction she went. But she quickly discovered treating employees, there was a better way to approach treatments. And that's an exciting thought. She now serves over 10,000 people through many major brand clients, and is a popular keynote speaker in her field. Welcome, Dr. Delaine.
Oh, thank you, Bob. I appreciate it.
When I was reading your bio about what you're doing, because I've got numerous friends that are PTs, and so I had a general idea of what they do and how they approach their practice. Yours is different. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your story, how you moved from your desired thought process back when you first started becoming involved in the medical practice to the space that you have now today?
Sure. So as a young PT, I was working in a practice where we saw a lot of work comp patients, and they seemed to have the same injuries over and over and over again. They were coming from the same places and same injuries. So after a little while, I just got fed up and started calling the companies and saying, hey, can I come tour your plant? I really want to see how people are working and doing their jobs. Because I feel like if we can look at the way people are working and start adapting so that they aren't putting so much stress on their bodies, we're probably going to stop some of these injuries. And I had some really nice clients who said, sure, come on in, let's tour the plant. One day I had this lady, and she was curious about why I was there and asked me, and I told her, and she's like, well, you know what? I moved from that line over there to this line a couple months ago, and my wrist has been killing me ever since. And I was like, okay. I said, all right, well, let me watch you work. And if there's something I can do, I'll do my best to do it. She said, okay. So as I was watching her, she was moving her wrist in a really weird way to push a button. And it's like, oh gosh, okay. So I watched her do that for a while. I called the maintenance guy over and said, hey, can you move that button from there to there? And he said, yeah, maybe, I think so. And I left. And I went back a couple weeks later, and that lady almost tackled me. And she was so happy her wrist pain was gone. And she got the credit from all the other people who worked on that line that their wrist stopped hurting too. And at that moment, I knew I could be a part of the solution. I could go to the cause of the issue and fix it. Because a lot of times people think, like, if they're having thumb pain, they think, oh, I must have arthritis in my thumb. But in actuality, it's probably that trigger point in your shoulder. And so to go to the cause and fix the cause of the issue was just like a super big aha moment for me as a young therapist. And I've been working really hard ever since to help employers look at their employees as industrial athletes and to find the way that they need to work the best way for them to be well, to do their job well, to be efficient, effective, and to recover so they can come back and do it again, just like an athlete does. So,
wow, that's really interesting, and it's so cool that you got to go observe, and just through a simple observation and a piece of a machinery that just wasn't really well thought out by the engineer from the standpoint of what's it going to do to this after a while. You thought about that, and then just with a simple move, I bet there's a lot of things that you have seen in corporate America, now that you work in those kind of industries, that you've seen those little teeny things that have made the biggest difference in their lives?
Totally. And I love working with environmental health and safety managers and engineering teams as we look at things, because my perspective as a physical therapist and a healthcare provider is just a little different than how to build something and how to build something well. But we love working with our EH&S and HR teams and tech teams.
That's encouraging. Being a former teacher and specifically a musician, in the music world, you're practicing your instrument. It's over and over and over and over the same things, moving fingers, moving slides, whatever you're doing with an instrument, percussion. And as an educator, I was constantly having kids talk to me about having an issue with their hand, their fingers, their wrist, whatever. And 99% of the time, when I would isolate what they were talking about, it was just a simple motion change, or just instead of having your wrist bent this way, have it go like this. And so I started seeing a lot of positive results, again, by getting involved in your patient, not just telling them to take a pill or come again 2 weeks from now if it's not any better. You actually looked for solutions. Commend you on that. That's exciting. A lot of
we're all teachers at heart. Both my parents were teachers at some point in their careers, and I swore I'll never be a teacher, and that's what I do all day. So I love to teach as well.
You do. A lot of my focus on this show has been in the holistic alternative modalities, and I got there through a series of situations that happened in my past life from a health standpoint. Do you consider what you do to be on a holistic approach?
Yes. So, and I feel like sometimes PTs, because we're not great at saying what we do and why we do it. Somehow, we don't see ourselves as that naturopath person, but we are. We're looking for ways that your body heals itself, for us to, retrain you neuromuscularly so that your brain and your muscles fire in the right sequence, so that you can change a posture to get out of pain, to fix a muscle to where it's feeling better and can heal, and then fixing movement patterns. So in that way, physical therapists are probably some of the most original functional medicine people that have ever existed. PT was created during the polio epidemic. So that's how PTs came to be. And obviously our career path has changed very much, and what we do has changed very much over the years. But our ability to explain that we get people out of pain without medications, injections, or surgeries by using your body to heal. That's something that we are missing the boat on as a profession to tell the world. So I think everybody, as much as you have your core healthcare providers, your doctors and nurse practitioners, your chiropractors, your acupuncturists, your functional medicine people, you should also have a physical therapist that you trust, that you know is going to work hard for you in your circle of providers, because their perspective is so much different.
That's really good information. The point that I really heard you bring home a couple times in that sequence of your conversation was, let your body heal itself. Our bodies are pretty miraculous machines, aren't they?
Amazing.
And sometimes if we get out of the way and let them do their job, let the body do its job, let the cells work, let the muscles work, and we find ways to do what we're supposed to be doing properly, i.e. people like yourself that show us we're doing this wrong, let's change this, we'd have a much healthier life, wouldn't we?
No doubt.
No doubt.
I still sit on the side. I'm a physical therapist, so I'm super biased towards exercise, but exercise applied properly and appropriately for everyone, not just like, okay, I'm going to take up this sport or I'm going to do this, like building a foundational strength for people where they are and figuring out where they want to go. So, but exercise fixes a lot of stuff. And I know it's easier to sell supplements and all that stuff on YouTube. So that's what we find on YouTube. It's here, take this pill, put this stuff in, this amazing balm on your body and you're not going to hurt ever again. But in reality, applied exercise is something that can be truly a miracle for anybody.
Yeah, and I would think, because I know I go to the gym, I lift weights, I walk, run, etc. But if I get tired or don't do something correctly, that's when I always get in trouble. That's when I tweak something, or I go this day and I just have more energy than I know what to do with, and so I push a little too far.
Yeah.
And then the next day or the day after that, I get up and go, "Uh-oh, what did I do?" And not realizing I was too fatigued, and I probably did something I shouldn't have done in the lift or in the particular motion, and boom, here I am.
Yeah. So we spent a couple weeks at the beach this summer, and my older kids, I have 3 kids. My older kids were at surf camp all week, which was really cool. But my 4-year-old was with me, and poor guy, I pushed him. We would be outside all morning watching surf camp, and then we'd come in and get a rest, and then we'd go back out and do more. Well, after the 3rd day of that, he started having nightmares in the middle of the night, and it was fatigue.
Oh my goodness.
It was fatigue. I was just pushing him too hard for a few days in a row. And I was like, okay, that your 4-year-old body's just not ready for this.
That's interesting you just mentioned that, because I have been having nightmares the past few nights, and I've done quite a bit more than I normally do. Maybe I found the reason why.
There you go.
I'll have to try that. After I finish with this podcast with you, I'm done for the day.
That's right. No more work.
No more. I'm going to rest. So from what I'm reading on your bio, you work with some really interesting companies out there. Are you allowed to talk about some of them and share with us some of the things you're doing within their companies that have helped out?
Oh, sure. So again, I've had a 20-year career of working with companies, and I'm very lucky that I did start making those phone calls and making connections, because especially in my county that I live in, Mike Rowe, the dirty jobs guy. I'm the dirty jobs guy in our county. Like, I've seen how trucks are made and how tires are retread and how t-shirts are made and how groceries are distributed and all sorts of really cool things. And with our clients, it depends on what they need, what we provide. But truly what we do is we create that we're a frontline healthcare provider for them. And we put people in-house. We put athletic trainers and physical therapists in-house with the company, so that when somebody has that little bit of wrist pain, they can go talk to the PT or the athletic trainer to see what preventative first aid things they can do to help. So it usually ends up being, we have this care side where we care for them. We might ice it, tape it, that kind of thing. And then we'll move over to a coaching side. So then we'll go to where they're working and watch them work and give them strategies and teach them and coach them how to, like you were talking about with the instruments, right? That wrist bend one way or the other means a world of difference in fatigue. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do as a nuts and bolts kind of thing. We do all sorts of stuff. We do physical demand analysis, line design. We communicate with doctors' offices. We find that's a big stressor for our clients, to navigate that communication system is hard. I kind of jokingly say, like, we speak medical. So we can help liaison that communication when there needs clarification on job demands and work demands. Plus the healthcare providers on that side are on the healthcare side of it are like, oh, okay, y'all are there, great. So then they have comfort knowing that if they send the person to work, that they're going to have someone to work with them to help them through whatever they're going through.
And that's really fascinating. And do most corporations have that kind of setup within their facilities, or is this something fairly new, or just in your area?
Yeah, it's definitely a growing field, and we're in 21 states. So we've been very gifted with being able to connect with some larger clients and picked up some national clients, which is really exciting for us and ever growing. But there are other companies that do what we do as well. If I had to guess, I mean, I would say maybe only 10% of companies even ever consider having an injury prevention program like ours, and certainly to the depth of the relationship that we want to build. We're more than, a lot of other programs, they'll just send somebody to walk around and then they'll leave. But we truly want to know, our employees. We call them our industrial athletes. We call them our team. So we want to make sure we're truly building that foundational relationship as a professional healthcare provider for them. I kind of liken it back to a country doctor. A country doctor would know all of his patients' names and go over and speak to them and make a round with them, just make sure they're okay. Even if they were well, he's just stopping by. And so that's what I liken us to, that we're actually, as for all the technology that we all have, it still doesn't top that relationship that you need to understand somebody in a healthcare way. So, and then to help them along if they don't need PT, or if they need something more than musculoskeletal care, to be able to advise them on that.
It's got to be another side of this too. It's got to be really good for the employee and their mental acuity and the way they approach things, that they know that, number one, their company is looking out for their welfare, and they have people like you and your team in there that are looking out for each individual within that setting. They've got to feel really good about going to work every day.
Yeah, I always say we're like a pressure relief valve.
Oh, wow.
So if an employee is hurt, they get to come talk to us. If an employee is hurt, instead of the supervisor being like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do with you, go to the doctor. They can say, hey, go see Delaine, right? Or go see whoever my athletic trainer is, and chat with us. So we're like, I really do think part of it is that we do bring the tenor down to that, and can be that person for them to say, here, there's someone here to take care of you. Let us take care of you.
That's really neat. And I can imagine that in that setting, over the years that you've been doing this, you've seen some real positive results, and companies coming back to you and saying, thank you, because you're helping our people be healthier.
Yeah. I jokingly tell my employees, like their first day of work, I try to reach out to them and introduce myself if I hadn't done so already. And I say, hey, just remember, like, we're like unicorns and rainbows for everybody. We're there to take care of employees. And again, they don't run off to the doctor because they hurt. They don't. They think it's a part of the job, and it's not. We're helping the supervisor staff have that pressure relief valve, reduce their paperwork, and we're saving companies millions of dollars by doing so, and helping them with their negotiating power with insurance companies as they look at their work comp claims, because we're bringing down cost per claim, we're bringing down recordable rates. So truly helping people, and that's what we love to do. So
that's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great business to be in. It feels good all the way around.
So it really sounds like to me you found your purpose and meaning in life.
Yeah, I always say, like, I love taking care of people, and I love helping people be well and feel well, and if I can keep helping people do that, and I love that my team, we have a team of over 50 now, and they're all driven to serve, and it's an awesome thing.
Wow, that it's such a very practical way to approach helping people cut down injuries, not having to go to the doctor as much, finding really the solution to the problem rather than just masking it with some kind of pill or put a Band-Aid on it, so to speak. That's got to be so gratifying.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely cool. I think one of the big wins we have that I have a couple PT practices as well. But the cool part is somebody comes in and they're like, this isn't going to work. And then they're ended up in a Google review going, I went somewhere else. I didn't see any results. I came to Accelerate, and I can't believe it took me so long to find them. That's really cool. And then in the industry, we have a certain technique that we use to show people that pain can go away. And so once we do something that takes 10 seconds to do, they're pretty excited about, oh, I don't have to be in pain. I'm like, yep. And so
yeah, nobody wants to be in pain, do they? They want to relief from that.
Who wants to hurt?
That's right.
Yeah, only unless you want to complain about it. That's the only reason to hurt.
Yeah, that's my way of getting out of work or something.
There you go. Your to-do list, right?
obviously you've built a very, very positive uh, model in the physical therapy corporation kind of model. Do you have any books or articles that you've written that can be shared on this podcast, that if there's somebody happen to listen that's maybe in your space that would like to learn more about this, but be able to read it besides going to your website or something?
So we do patient newsletters, and I do a client newsletter. And so I can definitely try to share those links with you.
Okay.
And so your listeners can go in and click on our link, and you can get sent our newsletter every other month.
That's awesome. We'll put that on the notes at the end of this podcast, so people will have that ability to use that. I always like, this has been really fascinating, Dr. Delaney. It's a new area that I've heard about. I mean, I've gone to PTs. I've got a personal friend that's a very good PT, and she does a lot like what you're doing, just not so much in the corporate side, but she's, the one thing I like about PTs, every time I went, of all the doctors that I have visited in my lifetime, they put their hands on you. They know you pretty well by the time you finish work with them. And my frustration in today's world of Western medicine has been, we have a conversation, but there's very little touching, feeling outside of let's listen to your heart, let's listen to you breathe, let me check your ears, let me look down your throat. And there's more internally going on than just that stuff. But I love what you do in your practice, to where you really get involved in a person's life. What are they doing in their work life? How are they approaching their work life? Because you go out and actually watch. You actually see what they're doing. That is a real practical approach. And I commend you for coming up with that. That's just awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a rewarding time and a rewarding career so far, and we're gonna keep at it. There's so many people to help, and I do think, like, especially now as being a mom, I had a particular employee come up to me once, and he had hurt his back, and he had been out for like 6 weeks, and he was like, "Listen," he's like, "I don't want to do that again." He said, "That was awful." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Well," and he had never, like, even as much training as I would do with him, he was like, "I'm fine," and to just go back to, picking up cases the wrong way. And then he hurt his back. He's like, "I can't do that again." And I was like, "Okay, just do it my way for 2 weeks. 2 weeks." And then I came back, and 2 weeks later, and I had seen him on and off just walking the aisles, but in 2 weeks, he came up and he said, "I don't believe it." He was like, "I can't believe," he's like, "My back doesn't hurt. I'm walking faster. I'm picking cases faster, and I don't have to go home and lay on the floor for 20 minutes before I play with my kids." And he had been doing all that even before he hurt his back. He had to go home and lay on the floor. This is a young guy in his 20s, but he had to go lay on the floor. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, we were helping him with his family life. We just gave him time back with his children." And you can't take it back, right? It's so finite, that time with your kids. So again, we find all sorts of reasons to celebrate what we do.
That's really encouraging. And there's two things I heard in there. Number one, let's make this a really bite-sized chunk of changing a habit. We're going to do this for only 2 weeks. This is what I want you to do. And then we'll revisit this in 2 weeks.
Right.
That wasn't a big thing, but at the end of that 2 weeks, it was a big aha moment for him, wasn't it?
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah.
So,
huge.
and I have stories and stories and stories of that, but
yeah,
super rewarding and super fun, and super fun to talk about it too, Bob.
That's awesome. I can tell. I wish my audience could see you, because the whole time she's been grinning ear to ear. She loves, obviously, talking about what she's doing, and she's really helping people with this organization. I always like to ask my guests, Dr. Delaney, to leave a couple pieces of value to our client, to our people, of something that they could take out of this, listening to this podcast today, that could help them in their own life. Mm-hmm. So what are two things that come to mind to you that would be really good pieces of value for my audience?
If something's hurt, don't chalk it up to you're getting older. I have all sorts of jokes that go along with, somebody saying, well, my left arm just hurts. I'm getting old. And I usually say, well, does the right one hurt? And they say no. And I say, it's the same age. Okay. So don't chalk it up to arthritis. You'd be surprised how many people, yes, sure, you have arthritis. It doesn't mean you have to hurt. Right. So seek out those healthcare providers that will work with you. I have a massage therapist. I have a Thai massage therapist. I have a chiropractor. I have my physical therapist. I have, all sorts of providers that are good, solid people to take care of me. And you should too. Healthcare shouldn't be something that you don't get to have. Find the people that can take care of you and work with them, so that you can, your personal trainer, your fitness coach, any of those people that you can put on your team, your group, your aerobics instructor, or any of those group training people, they can be on your team as long as they want to take care of you.
So that's you're saying is real important, Dr. Delaney. Is I think probably in my lifetime growing up, I had a doctor, and occasionally that doctor would send me to a specialist, and maybe that doctor became part of that team, but I didn't look at it that way. But you're talking about across the spectrum of, you have a team of your doctor, your physical therapist, your possibly massage therapists, chiropractors. Those are all important. And some of those fall into the holistic approach, just like what yours is doing.
Yeah.
That's important. That's a big piece of information that I hope that our audience hears. And what's the last piece that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So that is, you always put yourself in the middle of care, is that piece. And the other part is go exercise. You can read all you want. You can look at all the research. Exercise fixes a lot of things. Chronic disease is such a huge part of our world right now. And it doesn't actually have to exist. Part of it is we're not moving enough, and we're not moving enough well enough. So even if that means going for a walk, if that's what you got, that's good. That's movement. If it's stretching, that's good. That's movement. Anything to get yourself moving, because you are more human when you move. People weren't built to be still. We weren't meant to sit all day. Even astronauts in space with no gravity will move at night when they're sleeping. Right? So it's not about pressure on the joints. It's about, we need to be our full selves by moving and unwinding emotional stress and any of those things. So go get some exercise, move more, and do something that you love to do.
That is really good advice. And I know personally, if I sit too much and I don't get out and do those things that you just said, I pay for it the next day, or pay for it later that day. So movement. Dr. Delaney, it's been a real delight to have you on our podcast, and I hope I can have you back in the near future, and we can explore this whole concept of physical therapy from a whole nother area of life, and to hear more about what you do. Folks, thank you for tuning in to the Bob Priest Show of Life. If you want to learn more about me and the approach that I take to holistic alternatives and modalities, go to my website, www.bobpriest.life, and we'll see you again next week with another show. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, thanks again for checking into today's episode. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, Apple, leave me a 5-star rating if you so choose, and if you enjoyed the show. I'm so grateful that you're spending some time with us and listening to our podcast. If you need to get in touch with me to learn more about my passion to inform and educate about alternative methods and modalities of healing, you can go to www.bobpriest.life. That's BOBPRIEST.life. While there, check out a blog or two and listen to other podcast sessions that I've had in the past. Guys, have a great day, and thank you so much for joining in.